A killer who terrorized an entire nation, a man whose crimes were so horrific that even hardened investigators were left shaken. Between the 1970s and 1990s, Andrei Chikatilo, known as the Rostov Butcher, became one of the most notorious serial killers in history. But what drove him to commit such unspeakable acts? And how did he manage to evade capture for years? This is the disturbing true story of the Rostov Butcher, a case that shocked the world and exposed terrifying flaws in the Soviet justice system. To understand Chikatilo, we must go back to his childhood, a period marked by war, famine, and brutality. Born in 1936 in a small Ukrainian village, he grew up in the shadow of Stalin's forced collectivization, which led to widespread famine. There were whispers of cannibalism, and his own mother told him that his older brother had been kidnapped and eaten, a horrifying story that may have fueled his later obsessions. Physically weak and constantly bullied, Chikatilo developed deep insecurities and feelings of powerlessness. As he grew older, these frustrations turned into something far darker. By the late 1970s, Chikatilo was leading a double life. To the outside world, he was a married man, a father, and even a teacher. But underneath, he was a predator. His first known murder occurred in 1978 when he lured a young girl into a secluded area and brutally killed her. Soviet authorities wrongly convicted another man for the crime, allowing Chikatilo to continue killing undetected. Over the next 12 years, he targeted the most vulnerable, runaways, homeless children, and women, leading them to isolated locations where he carried out acts of unimaginable cruelty. Despite leaving behind a trail of bodies, Chikatilo managed to elude capture for years, thanks in part to serious failures in Soviet law enforcement. The authorities were convinced that a mentally ill individual or a known criminal had to be responsible. Their profiling was so flawed that when Chikatilo was initially arrested, he was released because he didn't fit their idea of a serial killer. Meanwhile, innocent men were convicted and even executed for his crimes. It wasn't until 1990, after years of forensic advancements and careful surveillance, that investigators finally caught him in the act. Once in custody, Chikatilo eventually confessed to 56 murders, a number so staggering that even experienced detectives were stunned. His trial in 1992 was nothing short of chaotic. Caged inside a steel enclosure, he laughed, shouted, and mocked the courtroom, showing no remorse. But the evidence against him was overwhelming, and he was sentenced to death. In 1994, he was executed with a single gunshot to the head, marking the end of one of history's most terrifying killing sprees. The case of Andrei Chikatilo exposed the deep flaws in Soviet-era criminal investigations, but it also serves as a chilling reminder. Some of the world's most dangerous predators can blend into society, hiding in plain sight. And this is just one of the many disturbing cases that shook the world. If you want to learn about another terrifying mind from history, the story of Pedro Lopez, the monster of the Andes, will leave you equally horrified.